How's everybody doing today? So I'm going to try something a little different here. It's going to be a shorter video. I'm going to try and keep it under 10 minutes, hopefully no more than like 15, 20 at tops. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you some deck techs. These are decks that I've seen played throughout the week. Unfortunately, I'm not a full-time content creator, so I don't have time to bring you leagues with all these decks. However, other content creators have played these decks. I get to consume a lot of content of Magic while I'm at work. So anyway, I'm going to bring you some decks that I think looked great and look fun, and they all play blue. As you know, I'm a control player at heart, so all these decks have to have blue in them in some capacity. So anyway, I'm going to bring you 4 deck techs today: Esper Frog, Esper Ketramose, Goryo's Twin, and Jeskai Thrull. I think they all have a place in the meta. I'm not saying they're all phenomenal, but they are fun to play. I did play them in a couple games, so I can give you some feedback on them. So anyway, let's go ahead here and get into the deck techs for you. The saying of legend. All right, first up today, we have a really spicy one. I'm starting off with probably the spiciest list we have today. Something I really want to try. I was really big into Goryo's Vengeance, except I obviously splashed white, where this is splashing red. But the whole thing here is sideboard, we convert into Splinter Twin. When Splinter Twin was unbanned, I really wanted to give it a shot, never got around to doing it. Someone put this list together. This is the list I played, and that I'm going to go over today. So basically, what we're doing is we had to splash hard into red. We no longer have white, as we obviously need double red for Splinter Twin. So basically what that means is we lose Ephemerate, and we lose Solitude, and basically all our white cards, obviously. But those are the 2 big ones: Solitude, Prismatic Ending, and Ephemerate. Obviously, Ephemerate is how you keep Goryo's Vengeance and Emperor Bones from exiling your big fatties. So how we get around that now is we have Consign to Memory. So basically what you do is you Goryo's Vengeance, bring back a Traxxas Grizzlebrand, and at the end step, when it goes to exile, you consign the trigger. So that's how you get around the exiling effect. It's obviously not near as great as Ephemerate with Atraxa, and I did find us losing white was a very big hit. Not having Solitude Ephemerate, huge loss right there. Prismatic Ending was good at hitting graveyard hate and just hate in general, because you could do X equals 3 and exile problematic permanents. And then obviously Ephemerate was just a great card. With that said, we'll go over the list here. So we're doing 4 consigns. As I said, this is basically your Ephemerate to keep your big creatures around after Goryo's Vengeance or Emperor Bones trigger goes on the stack. 4 Fatal Push. This was an issue when I played the deck. It's our only removal we play. 4 Fatal Push. That's not a lot of removal, so you're basically all in on getting a fatty down with flying and racing your opponent or comboing them after sideboard. We have 2 Thoughtseizes. We don't really have a lot of counter spells or anything like that, so Thoughtseize helps clear the way and make sure our combo goes off or stops our opponent from doing their thing. We have 4 Faithless Looting, as this enables us to pitch cards and dig. We have 3 Emperor of the Bones. Basically another Goryo's Vengeance type effect for us. It also helps exile cards from our opponent's graveyards that help, eat up some of their cards. For Goryo's Vengeance, we're playing 3 Fear Missing Out. Fear Missing Out here is great for 2 reasons. One, it works at pitching a card and drawing a card, so it's a discard outlet for us. And then also it is enabled by Splinter Twin. It's basically another Deceiver Exarch as long as you have Delirium going on. We have Psychic Frog. Every deck can play Psychic Frog. Probably should play Psychic Frog at this time. It's a great card. We have 4 Tainted Indulgence, another draw and discard outlet. 2 Force Negations. 4 Traxxas, 4 Grizzlebrands. Pretty standard there. But now where the spice comes in is after sideboard. So basically what you do after sideboard is you take out all your graveyard stuff and you bring in Splinter Twin and Deceiver Exarchs. So your opponent's bringing in a bunch of, basically take out most of their creature removal. And then they bring in Graveyard Hate. And then they mulligan the Graveyard Hate. And then you turn 4 Splinter Twin them. It is phenomenal. It's great. I'm not saying it's the best deck there is, but it's definitely a fun thing to do. So basically what you do here is, after sideboard, you can cut Grizzlebrand, Atraxas, your Goryo's Vengeances, Consigns if they're not good in the matchup, and then you bring in Splinter Twins, Deceiver Exarchs, and then you have, unfortunately, this combo eats up a lot of our sideboard. So all we have left after that is 2 Spell Snares, card's really good in the format right now, 2 Brazen Borrowers. Since we don't have access to white, we have no way to answer a resolved enchantment or artifact. and it can cause issues for us. So Brazen Borrower is there to bounce any problematic permanents we need, and then 3 Pyroclasms. Obviously, Boros Energy is running around, and we only have 4 Fatal Pushes, so if you're not combo killing them, either with, Atraxa punking them out or Splinter Twin, you need a way to answer the cards, so Pyroclasm does great at that. So anyway, I think this deck's kind of fun. It's a little clunky. I really miss the white. I would like to tinker around and see if I can do a 4-color list somehow and keep red and white. The Loss of Solitude in Ephemerate doesn't sound like a lot, but it is major. I understand you need to splash red to fit in Splinter Twin. If I was going to build this list, I'd do more of an Esper Goryos and then splash in a couple lands to make the Splinter Twin possible after sideboard. With that said, the deck was okay, but like I said, I really preferred the white splash. Anyway, we'll get on here to our next list. Alright, next up is a spicy list. The last one was spicy because of the sideboard plan. This one's spicy because of the main deck idea. And I really wanted to play this deck in paper. Unfortunately, I could not find the major piece of this deck, and it is Doorkeeper Thrull. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. This card's phenomenal. It basically shuts down lots of decks in the format, and you can also abuse it yourself, which is kind of comical. Also, the deck is Jeskai, so, I'm always in to play Jeskai. So we'll get into it here quick. Basically, to give a quick highlight, Doorkeeper Thrull says artifact and creatures entering don't cause abilities to trigger. So that basically means Grinding Station doesn't trigger when you're playing Team or Breach, so they can't combo you. It also means some other cards don't activate, like Boros Energy. I can't think of the name. Ajani doesn't trigger, and there's just other things that also it just stops, and it's kind of great. So anyway, this is the deck I really want to be good. Doorkeeper Thrull, what you do to abuse it yourself is you hopefully shut down your opponent's abilities, and then you can play your own. So Flage comes in, and instead of it dealing 3, in sacrificing itself, it just stays. It doesn't sacrifice itself to escape. And then same thing with Null Drifter. So it comes in, you draw 2 cards, and then it just stays as a 4/4 flyer with Annihilator 1. With that said, that's the main combo, and it seems strong. And we obviously get to play Counterspell, my favorite card to play. And then we also have Wrath of Disguise and Prismatic Ending, probably my favorite cards in white to play. So the deck looked really sweet. I'm going to be completely upfront with you. The people who played it did really well. They played against meta decks. Unfortunately, I hit more off-meta decks when I played it, and this deck is significantly worse against off-meta lists. So let's go ahead here and get into the list quick. This is playing 20 lands, 1 Arena of Glory. You can up this if you want, just so you can give your Flages haste. Same with your Null Drifter, giving a Null Drifter that comes in on, what is this? On turn 4 with Evoke with a Doorkeeper Thrull in play to give it haste. You draw 2 cards, gets haste, and you Annihilator 1. Pretty sick play, not gonna lie. Never came up for me. With that said, I know some lists do up the Arena Glories. So our 1-drops are Static Prison. We're doing an energy package, so you might as well play it. So we have Static Prison. We have Tune the Narrative, 2 Consigned Memories. Consigned Memories just phenomenal. And on top of that, you can, if you really had to, you can consign your Evoke triggers. At least I'm pretty sure. I never got to do it, to be honest, but I'm 99% sure that works. Tune the Narrative, obviously, you just need to enable your energy. Galvanic Blast, Galvanic Discharge is a good removal spell. For Doorkeeper Thrull, like I said, this card has Flash Flying, so you can hold up Counterspell in your turn. This is why I want to play the deck so much. You hold up Counterspell in interaction, and then at their end step, you flash him in, and then untap, and then you jam a Flage or a Null Drifter. Unfortunately, this combo never worked for me, and I'd end up in super awkward situations where I'd have a Doorkeeper Thrull in play. I need to stabilize against an aggressive deck. I'd escape a Flage and come in, and it doesn't deal 3 damage and gain 3 life because the ETB's turned off. So it's awkward in some spots. We're playing 4 dress down. If you don't have a Doorkeeper Thrull, you can dress down and then do the same thing with Flage or Null Drifter. It's the same effect. And it also draws you a card. It also can stifle your opponent's abilities as well. You have 4 counter spells, 1 Singing the Stupor is just a catch-all, 4 Flage, 2 Lorien Revealed, 4 Null Drifter, 2 Prismatic Endings, 3 Wrath of Disguise. We'll go ahead here in the sideboard. In the sideboard here, the sideboard is a little wonky. I'll be honest with you. This is the list they were playing. They made it look really well. I think I'd make some small changes to the sideboard after playing it. But we have another Wrath of the Skies card is phenomenal. I agree with it. Goes Lex Return. I can see why it's in here, right? It deals 2 damage. It's instant speed. And when you invoke your Null Drifter, it gets a flashback from the graveyard. Excuse me. So in theory, it's great. It never came up for me. Playing 4 Soul Guide and Lanterns. I was trying to figure out why we were playing this over some other graveyard hate, but I think it comes down to the fact that you can just sacrifice it any time, and then if you need to, you can sacrifice it to draw a card. So like Relic to pop it, you have to hold up 1 mana, where you don't always want to do that in this deck. You want to have all your mana available to you, and you're tapping out sometimes, so you want to be able to exile the graveyard in its entirety. We're not playing black, so Nile Spellbomb isn't the way to go. So you can't draw a card, so I think that's why the builder of this was on Soul Guide Lantern. Next up, we have Dampening Spear. This is decent. It's a couple things. Eldrazi makes all their lands tap for 1, and then against Grinding Station, Breach, obviously their cards get more expensive to play. We have 2 more Consigns. The card is just phenomenal. You're going to see it appear in basically every deck we play right now. There's a reason this uncommon's like $5 or $6. 3 Force and Negations, just more counter spells. We play a bunch of blue spells that we can pitch, and then we're playing 2 Wear Tears. So overall, this deck didn't quite meet my expectations. It looked phenomenal. Like I said, I was trying to track down some Doorkeeper Thralls so I could play them locally at a tournament for an FNM. Unfortunately, I couldn't find them in time, and after playing some games with it, I don't think I'd ever take this deck out to play. If you want to try for fun, definitely give it a shot, and I'm going to keep trying to play it and hope that we can get there with it. But at this time, I think the deck just looks cool, but for me, it does not do well for me and meet my expectations. So I'll see you for the next one. Alright, we're back here for our third deck. This is kind of a personal pet deck to me. It's going to be Esper Frog. I know a lot of people are kind of off Frog. It hasn't been doing well lately, but I think it still has legs. I took it to in paper. This is the exact list I played in paper last FNM. Again, it was only 4 rounds, but I did go undefeated. Then we played it in the league last week, and we also went 4-1. The deck did feel strong. We're playing 19 lands, 20 if you count Sink in the Stupor. 4 Consider. Most of this is pretty standard. 4 Consider. I'm playing one spell Pierce over a spell Snare. It's personal preference. I just want 1 Pierce in there. So 1 Pierce, 2 Spell Snare. Again, you're going to see it come up a lot. It's very good. 4 Thought Scour. Now a lot of people are all Thought Scours. But with my list, I'm running Thought Scour as like, first off, I like the ability to possibly go turn 2 Thought Scour into Unearth and Oculus. It's a pretty strong play. Usually most opponents will concede to that. On top of that, you're going to see I'm playing a couple one-ofs, a one of Dalthi the Voidwalker in the main, and 1 Harbinger of the Sea in the main. These are basically kind of like, if you're running Quarter Calling and you could Quarter Calling, it's obviously not that good here, but the fact that I'm blind milling stuff and I've considered and ways to get them into the graveyard, Dalthi is really good at graveyard hate. I'm not running any main deck now spell bombs like some players, so I'm a little weak to graveyard hate, but Dalthi is super great against graveyards, and sometimes, pardon me, Harbinger of the Seas can just punk some opponents out. They're not ready for it. You just unearth a Harbinger, they're not ready for it. They're basically Blood Mooned out the game. Or even if you hard cast it on turn 3 sometimes, you'll catch some people. Playing 4 Fatal Pushes, 4 Unearths, 4 Counter Spells, 2 Pest Control. This is the reason you're Esper. I thought about going Esper even before Pest Control kind of popped up into the main spotlight, as I wanted better sideboard cards. Pest Control is phenomenal against Breach. Breach combo, as it answers all their permanents basically. It's also good against Boros, cleans up all their tokens, and basically most of their good cards. Psychic Frog, again, you're just going to see this in like every list that can play it. Oculus is in here. You want 4 of them, 4 Force Negations, 1 Harbinger of the Sea, a Sink in the Stupor, Murktide Regent. I thought about cutting Murktide Regent. But I had a couple games where it's kind of like a mirror, and then some decks just can't remove big creatures. And Murktide Regent can become a very big boy very quick, and it combos well with Psychic Frog. When you exile cards, it grows Murktide Regent. When you exile cards to Oculus, it obviously grows your Murktide Regent as well. And Murktide Regent, I think, is a 2 of. I want more of that, but pardon me. When I did draw it, it actually felt very good. We're going to go ahead here and get into the sideboard. And this is the real reason I wanted to play Esper, is I wanted better sideboard cards. I know there's only 4 of them, but I think these 4 cards are phenomenal. To start off with is Disenchant. Sounds silly, you could play Prismatic Ending, but I want Disenchant super badly. Basically, your opponent goes turn 1, Leyline of the Void, which is running around. You are all in on Frog. It just felt so terrible unless you draw Sink in the Stupor, but let's be honest, that's just too slow. Disenchant is not only proactive, so I can pop my opponent's grinding stations and things like that, or any other enchantments or artifacts they have, but I can also enable my own plan. So I think Disenchant isn't seen a lot, but I think this card is super phenomenal. It's instant speed, so I can hold it up along with Counterspell, and then, you know, it lets me answer problematic permanents that would stop me from doing my designed game plan. Also, since we're in white, we now get Stony Silence. Stony Silence, obviously, keep hearing me bring it up. Temur Breach is probably like the best, or one of the best decks and most popular decks. Stony Silence is phenomenal against them. As you've seen with everything else in blue, you just want Consign to Memories. I got a little cute here myself. I played 2 Stern Scolding. I think the card's very good. Pardon me, sorry, my throat is tickled. Stern Scolding hits a lot of things in the format. It's not terrible against Breach for hitting her Emeries. It's obviously hits basically everything that is played out of Boros Energy, and it's also not good at, it's not too bad into the mirror either for Psychic Frogs and things like that. So I like 2 Stern Scolding. I'm a little harder in on Harbinger of the Seas. I wanted that ability to punk people out of the game. I think the card's underutilized. The number of people not playing a ton of basics or not fetching them and respecting this card, you can catch a lot of people with this card. So we do have 3 of them after sideboard. Then I went in on Surgical. As you saw, no Nile Spell Bombs. I want to give Surgical a try. It never really came up in any of the games I did play with it. But I like Surgical because you can hit that one card and remove all the copies of it. So if I can hit a Breach out of a Breach deck, or Flage out of any other deck, because Flage is a problem for this deck. Anything like that, I think Surgical is just phenomenal. I knew Blue Belcher was around for a while. You can just hit a Belcher with it, things like that. Like, the game basically ends. So I wanted to try Surgical. I never really got to play it, so I can't say much about it, but I wanted to try it. We have another Dalthy Voidwalker, again, good against Graveyard Hate. And it's another target for us to unearth after we Thought Scour if we don't draw it. And I played 1 Toxic Deluge. We're super late on creature removal, to be honest. We have 4 Fatal Pushes. The rest is all kind of crap. So I wanted a sweeper. I didn't want to go to wholly up to Damnation. I think Damnation is just a little too slow, where Toxic Deluge is a turn earlier. You do have to pay life, but it's another card I want to try. So anyway, overall, this is my personal list for Esper Frog, but I do really like it and think it still has some legs to it. Alright, last deck here is Esper Ketramose. Bear with me, my voice is starting to go out. Anyway, I say this for last, as I assume if you've watched any Magic content or listened to any, you've been hearing Ketramose all over the place, right? And I know it's a new set and there's a lot of hype, but I'm not a black-white player. Like, I'm like, black-white didn't tickle my fancy as a deck I would want to play, right? Like, I know it's doing well, but it wasn't a type of deck that I would want to play. With that said, after playing this deck is phenomenal. I think it's great. I would probably buy this and play this in paper, just to tell you how good it is. And I'm missing some significant pieces like the Belt Mercs. So with that said, it's a small blue splash, again, for the best cards you've seen in every deck so far. Spell Snares, Psychic Frog, Consigns. You're splashing for basically the best of blue spells. 21 lands, 4 Ephemerates. Ephemerate is by all time my favorite white card of all time. Taking back to the days when we had Yorion, Omnath, Ephemerate, along with Eternal Witness and a Time Warp, so you can Time Warp, Ephemerate, and Eternal Witness for an infinite loop. Things like that. Ephemerate is just my favorite card. And we get to play 4. 2 Spell Snares, 4 Fatal Push, 2 Nile Spell Bombs. You play black, it's just incidental Graveyard Hate that lets you draw cards. Failure, I didn't see the full potential of this card when I first started playing it. Pardon me. Failure can blink your stuff and your opponent's stuff. For some reason, I never put the thing together with blinking your opponent's stuff. So obviously it's great at flickering your Bailmerks. You can flicker your Solitudes, things like that. But it's super great at flickering opponent stuff. I had an opponent go Chalice on 1, bricked up 2 Ephemerates and a Spell Snare in hand. I was able to attack with Failure, flicker out their, basically blink their Chalice of the Void, so I came back with 0 counters on it. So this card is actually really phenomenal. I just didn't see all the potential. Obviously, you can attack, exile a blocker, and kill them if you have lethal. Or Ember of the Bones, this card comes up a fair bit too. You're not really cheating anything crazy into play, but it being there as instant graveyard hate and being able to bring stuff back for you on your side of the board in a grinding matchup is phenomenal. For Psychic Frog, Psychic Frog is just phenomenal and plays super great with Ketramose. You get a Ketramose into play. I had it. Unfortunately, I didn't see Ketramose a ton, but I did have it where we were both us and me and my opponent were both top decking, and I hit a Ketramose with a Frog in play. It was very late game. I exiled a bunch of graveyards, drew a whole new hand, basically. Super phenomenal. Flicker Wisp, I know how I felt about this card, right? But after playing with it, it did feel great. Basically, what you can do with it is the generic stuff, flicker a Solitude, flicker a Bailmerk, things like that. But I had a situation where my opponent had an Ensnaring Bridge in play, and I needed to answer it. Flicker Wisp came down, obviously exiled the Ensnaring Bridge, and I was able to swing for lethal. So a 2 of Flicker Wisp, I think, is reasonable to have. 2 Bogart Trawlers, a land that also exiles graveyard, I think is a great addition. And then Ketramose, the newest addition, phenomenal. It does so much. Menace, lifelink, can attack or block unless you have 7 or more cards in exile, and whenever a card goes into exile, lose a life, draw a card. This card is enabled so easily by this deck. Frog enables Ketramose. Emperor of the Bones enables Ketramose. Failure enables Ketramose. Solitude enables it. Flicker Wisp enables it. Now Spellbomb enables it. Ephemerate enables it. This card is disgusting in this deck. It is phenomenal. One thing I do want to let you know, I think some people forget, a couple of opponents did, that this card is indestructible. So if your opponent's swinging with a bigger beat stick creature and it doesn't have trample, even if it has trample, you can still block it. But you can use it as a pseudo blocker that can't die and gains you 4 life. A couple of opponents did forget about this, and I guess they thought maybe I wouldn't trade it off. Well, it's not a trade because it just doesn't die. Card's phenomenal. 4 Solitude, second favorite white card, and Overlord of the Bailmerk. Bailmerk spiked in price. I knew it was a good card. Usually it never came out because I would counter it and I played control deck, so it was never a true issue. But let me tell you, this card is phenomenal. I mean, obviously, I guess that's pretty obvious. But after playing with it, I can see why this card is so phenomenal. It just gives you so much inevitability. It lets you buy back whatever creature you want from the graveyard. And this deck can grind. I had numerous games where I would win with only like 18 cards left in deck, so it could grind that well. This deck did not feel like a black-white deck. This deck felt phenomenal going on the sideboard here. You get 4 white Orchid Phantom. This is for your Eldrazi matchups. Probably also good against Titan if Titan's still around or still a thing. Basically, you get to blow up a non-basic, and they go get a tapped basic. So you play 4 of them. The gross part is Failure, Ephemerate, and Flicker Wisp all flicker this card. So you just get to pop all their lands, basically, and it is just phenomenal. Aven Interrupter, good against Breach. Pardon me. And then also just great at messing up your opponent's stuff. Just plotting their things on the stack. We're playing 2 Wrath of the Skies. Even though we're not Energy Jack, even if you cast this for 1 against Boros Energy, most of the time that's so backbreaking to them that it doesn't matter, and that's all you need is 1 Wrath for X equals 1. Then we're playing 4 Consign and 1 Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage is in here. because you want to turn off your opponent's graveyard stuff, but at the same time, you don't want to turn off your own stuff like Belmerk and things like that. And Grafdigger's Cage lets you still play abilities like Belmerk and such. So overall, this deck, it looks wonky. Didn't think it'd be my type of deck, but after playing it, this deck is super fun. One last quick side note is I am not playing Aether Vial. I know a lot of people are either on or off Aether Vial. I'm not personally on Aether Vial. Now, if your hand's perfect, you don't draw a second Aether Vial at all during your game, and you have perfect lands and spells and creatures, Vial makes the deck look even better. With that said, though, Aether Vial, sometimes you keep loose hands because of Aether Vial, and then they blow up your Aether Vial, and you're kind of out of luck. And then with that said, if you draw another Aether Vial late game and not a threat, sometimes that'll ruin it for you. So I'm not an Aether Vial. With that said, I don't think it's super needed. This deck plays a super great fair game, and I don't really think it's needed. But if you want to play it, I won't blame you. So anyway, this is the last deck tech I had. If you like this type of format where I just go over what I think are interesting and fun and good decks of the week, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for stopping by. All right, quick outro here. Sorry for my voice there for that Esper Ketramose. My voice is going out. So I know that last deck tech was pretty rough. Anyway, let me know down below what you think of this type of content. I see a lot of cool decks throughout the week, right? Watch a lot of content, and I really want to show other people these cool decks in case you didn't catch them, right? Unfortunately, I don't have the time to play them all through a league or anything like that and bring you that type of content. I'm going to try and do one video a week of me playing a league, but there's so many decks sometimes that I wish I could play for you or just play and put up content with that I think are cool and fun. So this is my way to bring you these decks that I think are cool or fun that I can play a couple games with and then come to you with my feedback. That way you can try it, or if you didn't see the deck already, you can give it a shot, see what you think of it, and come to your own conclusions. So anyway, let me know down below if this is the type of content you'd be worth watching or not. Appreciate it. Have a good one.